Good morning, everyone. My name is Kalvin Carter, and I'm the director of Up North Advocacy. We're at this moment, we're a small two-man social, education, and environmental justice nonprofit. You can see there's my man Dave there getting some signatures from a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a couple frogs, and I'm helping host um, a My Care presentation there in the other picture. We're almost 2 years old. We'll be 2 years old in March. And yes, we're based in Sault Saint Marie, but we consider our service area being like the entire UP, at least the eastern side and the northern lower peninsula as well. And basically, what we do at Up North Advocacy is we get people to realize their power and to take collective action for positive change. Next slide, please. So just a couple of things you might know us by. We helped pass a contentious Sioux Schools bond here in Sault Ste. Marie after it failed a number of times. We've also helped lead a bunch of pro-democracy rallies in the Sioux. We worked on the state budget this year that came in 3 months late. We really tried to push those lawmakers to treat our schools well in it. And we run our men's circles, which are where men get together and talk about, life's problems and learn some emotional awareness and become better community members with one another. And we're also currently collecting ballot initiative signatures. And if you're interested in mop up, or invest in my kids or ranked choice voting, please get at Audrey or I after this. We want to get you rolled into it as well. And that's me and Up North Advocacy. Audrey?
Great. Thank you so much, Kelvin. Hello, all. My name is Audrey Gerard. I'm the Northern Regional Manager at Michigan United and one of the co-founders of a on-the-ground hub called Keweenaw Against the Oligarchy. Michigan United and Michigan United Action is a human rights statewide organization, and we are statewide, so we have hubs in Detroit, Flint, Saginaw, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, and as of 2021, the Upper Peninsula, the Western UP. It is a 13-year-old organization, and we actually started as an immigrant rights organization, but it expanded to include environmental, criminal justice reform, healthcare, in addition to immigrant rights over the past decade or so. Um, my local hub, Keweenaw Against the Oligarchy, organizes, educates, and mobilizes to uplift rural voices in the Western UP. We challenge the elite, and we are working to build a more just, democratic society. A little bit more about uh, Keweenaw Against the Oligarchy and Michigan United. We had a really successful nearly 200 person event this past Friday called Solidarity Sounds, Music and Comedy for the 99%, where we had 9 bands and 4 comedians joining us. Very recently, we partnered with like multiple other organizations to help overturn the resolution 25031 that there are two sexes in Houghton County. I help develop young people to be organizers and advocates. It's like one of my favorite things about my job. And we have hosted over 400 community members just since this past March. Um, and yeah, currently one of the projects Cato is working on is ballot initiatives. So if you haven't signed yet and you'd like to sign, or you'd like to be a circulator to collect for your friends and family, it's a really low effort thing to, you know, civically engage and be in community. Back to Kelvin.
Thanks, Audrey. All right, so let's talk about Dafter Township. I just want to say off the bat, I am no tech guy. I barely know how to use the computer that I'm reaching out to you through. Uh, so I'm no expert, but I do care about my community. And when I heard that there was a Bitcoin mining operation that sprung up across from Lake Superior Academy, I got involved. It's a school about 9 miles out of Sault Ste. Marie. Full transparency, my daughter is an alum of that school. She spent some of her formative younger years there learning. It's a beautiful, beautiful school specializing in outdoor education. It's a Montessori school. It's a really great place. They got this amazing outdoor learning center there. They have this really cool bird watching station where they report to the state of Michigan, like what birds are coming in and out. It's great. Unfortunately, these six container like mining pods sprung up across the street, and basically they're big metal boxes that make a lot of noise. Um, I was in the parking lot of Lake Superior Academy, and my decibel meter read 73 decibels, I think, um, which is like having a vacuum cleaner running in your room nonstop. So it's kind of bad. And that interfered with the kids' learning. They had to keep all the windows shut in the building. The birds stopped coming to the bird watching station. It was a mess. And my friend who lives just down the road said, "Yeah, the deer stopped coming into my yard. This thing is really disrupting the environment there." So, I wanted to get involved and learn as much as I can. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. So myself and a bunch of friends, we got together and realized that there was a planning meeting for Dafter Township coming up soon. And so we asked a bunch of people to get involved, come down there, make their voices heard. Um, and people of all walks of life attended that meeting. The place was packed. I couldn't even find a place to park anywhere up and down the street. Um, there were people from all walks of life. Like I thought I knew everybody in town. Turns out I didn't. So many people I didn't recognize there. Um, so the place was packed. The township got word ahead of time that we were going to show up, and so they invited the guys from the crypto company there. And we sort of had it out a little bit. It became pretty clear really early on that the township really didn't know a whole lot about crypto and data. They didn't have a lot of ordinances in place. There was no rules around this thing. Apparently, the company that came in lied on their application and said that they were installing storage units. The township said, hey, we were just doing our jobs. It's basically a clerical duty that we had. They weren't breaking any laws. We let them in. Cloverland Electric, which is our local electric cooperative, was kind of implicated because they had a part in helping the mining operation move in there. You can't just there was no outlet to plug into. They had to build a little bit of infrastructure there to handle the power draw that mining operation takes in. And it was pretty obvious. Like they were trying to obfuscate the truth about who they were and what they were doing there. Somebody in the crowd even said, "It really sounds like you guys are a shell company. Who owns the company you're representing, and who owns them?" Um, so it was pretty obvious that there was a lot going on there behind the scenes that wasn't being communicated to the people in that room. Um, and so we left with not really much resolution. The company said, "Give us some time. We'll put together some sort of noise mitigation plan. So give us some time. We'll come back. We'll let you know what we come up with." So slide 8. That resolution ended up being a bunch of rotting round hay bales stacked all around these computers. Um, it did cut the noise down some, not a ton. It did help some, but that solution definitely brought in problems of its own. The people who live nearby are understandably worried about rodents and potential fire hazard from the rotting hay bales. And the school did end up taking the company to court after that. There was a brief injunction of 14 days where the company had to shut down their computers. And the company claimed that they lost $180,000 from being shut down for 2 weeks. Um, they went to mediation after that, and no resolution came from mediation either. So as it stands now, this operation sits on 10 acres. They have plenty of room for expansion. The operation as it stands right now sits on maybe a half acre. The school is $30,000 poorer for the fight. To put that in perspective, it takes about $10,000 to run a child all the way through. So now they have the less capacity to run 3 kids through. And they actually had plans to expand the school. and allow more kids to enjoy the school there, but they've had to cancel those plans. And the CEO of that company, Odessa, is running for office in Florida. Slide 9, please. So we saw that this was a problem. We saw how unprepared Dafter Township was for when large tech operations just come into our towns. And we realized that we didn't understand the industry, and our lawmakers didn't understand the industry either. And so when we got looking into it, we realized that Dafter wasn't some sort of isolated incident. It was an early warning for northern Michigan and the UP. These things are already very popular in states like Texas and Virginia, and they were just now starting to move into Michigan. And we learned again that most people, including our township officials, don't understand the terms that we're talking about here or the stakes of this industry. How can you possibly regulate something that you don't even know what it is? So we're here to talk about clearing up that confusion, explain what these facilities actually are, and why our communities need to act and set our own terms before these companies come in and start setting the terms themselves. Audrey?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kalvin. Yeah, so to be clear, I am still not an expert, and this isn't a tech talk. This is a talk for you all about what is rural democracy, a talk about our resources, and a talk about who gets to decide what happens in our communities. So I just wanted to put that little disclaimer there. So let's start with clearing up a little confusion. So questions I hear a lot is what is data mining? What are data centers? What is AI? What is crypto mining? What are we even talking about? So to be clear, um, here is a simple version. Whether we are talking about crypto mines or data centers, they are all just basically giant metal boxes filled with computers that use massive amounts of electricity, water, and land. And they offer very little benefit to our communities. So, some preview of what you will learn today from myself as well as Kalvin is the different types of crypto mining and data centers, the real harms and impacts on our communities and communities that are experiencing this right now. Kalvin is going to discuss why this is happening around the money in politics, the lobbying behind it. Um, he will also touch on something called the bubble risk or why this whole thing might collapse in the first place. We'll talk about some success stories of communities that are fighting back, as well as just current updates on communities that are currently in a tech fight back. And we will talk about a pathway forward as an alliance with the Northern Michigan Alliance for Responsible Development. And that includes all of you. So we are so grateful to be here today communicating these efforts with you all. So first things first, let's start with crypto mining. This is a type of operation that Dafter Township that Kelvin just talked about is currently dealing with, and we are specifically talking about Bitcoin mining. So cryptocurrency is basically digital money that isn't backed by any government or physical stuff like gold. Mining operations can be very small, like Dafter, or huge. And how it works is basically there is a computer that's running 24/7, solving math puzzles to verify transactions. And these transactions have no real use. It's just for work for the work's sake. Um, the people running these computers do not get rewarded with new coins. Um, and the bigger the operation, the more coins that they end up getting. So what crypto mining means in real life is huge power use to generate a single Bitcoin today worth or it takes about 1,250 kilowatt hours, which is equivalent to powering one house for 45 days. Has a huge carbon footprint. A single Bitcoin produces 700 kilograms of CO2, which is equivalent. carbon footprint of 1.5 million Visa transactions or nearly 120,000 hours of watching YouTube. A single Bitcoin uses almost 20,000 liters of water. And as Calvin mentioned, the noise, there's huge noise. These cooling fans can reach decibels of 70 to 90, and that's like I grew up next to a highway, so it's like living next to a highway and having that constant hum, or having a vacuum cleaner running nonstop. And before anyone asks, because I do get this question a lot, let me bust one myth right now before anyone asks this one thing. And that thing is, you guessed it, it is about jobs. These facilities create almost no jobs. You might get a few temporary construction jobs at first, but once they're running, crypto mining facilities can operate with between 2 and 10 employees, even the larger scale ones. And that's it. So there's hardly any connection to the local economy. There is no local service, no product, no community benefit aside from a few tax dollars, which often get negotiated away in tax breaks behind closed doors, anyways. And bear with me because we are not done with the definitions yet, because data centers are not just one thing either. There are several different kinds, and they have very different impacts in our communities. They all look similar on the outside, like big boxes full of computers, but what is happening on the inside can be totally different. So there are traditional enterprise data centers. So that's places like banks, hospitals, colleges, insurance companies, and what these traditional enterprises do is store financial records, run banking systems, host a hospital's database and imaging and screening facilities. Um, it's what keeps our websites running and online. And it handles email and cloud storage as well, which is one thing that many of us do benefit from. And why these traditional and enterprise places matter is they're basically the essential infrastructure for modern life. And while energy and water use can still be large, this category is the most stable and predictable form of data centers. As far as jobs go, it's after the facility's built, it is between 10 and 50 jobs. Um, it is more jobs than crypto, but not by much. And then we have the hyperscale data centers. So when I say hyperscale, I mean we're talking massive, massive corporations, right? We're talking Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta. Um, these are enormous industrial scale versions of the more traditional enterprises that we have above, um, or that I had just spoken about. And what these hyperscale data centers do is store volumes, massive volumes of global data. They run our streaming services, Hulu, HBO, Netflix, YouTube. They host business platforms, and they support millions upon millions of apps and websites. They power people that do like online gaming, Google Maps, Apple Maps, email, uh, and they store backups for governments and corporations. So there is both a legislative relationship as well as a corporate relationship. And they matter because essentially they are the backbone of the global internet, but they have huge, huge demands of electricity and water. And then finally, we have GPU clusters, which are the fastest growing type, and it's what we essentially have been hearing about in the news a ton recently. They're the fastest growing type. It's driving the rural land rushes that we're seeing um, throughout the nation, and these types are behind social media algorithms for the most part. So, what AI data centers actually do, to sum it up, is they help with social media. They are behind the scenes of TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. People think social media is just posts, but AI is doing almost everything under the hood. So when you are on Facebook, it is deciding what posts you get to see and what gets hidden. It is reading your behavior to predict your scrolling. It is detecting your emotional responses to posts and ads and choosing ads that are tailored to your habits. It analyzes every photo for faces and objects and activities to reflect that back to you. And Facebook alone has 3 billion users, and only AI can process that many users on that scale. For Google search and maps, which is something that I use a ton, we have gotten away from reading physical maps, of course, and a lot of people are using Google Maps and Apple Maps nowadays. It predicts what you're going to be searching before you type by tracking your patterns. It tracks traffic speeds on every road. It predicts like fastest routes based on data pulled up from millions of phones. And it can even help you report where there are speed stops, objects in the road, um, you know, hazards, traffic delays. And that is how it's powering Google Search and Maps. For advertising and marketing, it determines what products you should be seeing or you should want on Amazon through the Amazon recommended section. Again, it's tracking your emotions to decide which emotional triggers you'll have based on your shopping habits. And it even does this really scary thing called psychographic profiles, which for companies, it builds tailor ads around your personality type and mood. I'm just going to quickly, for time's sake, go through the rest of these. AI data centers are tied to our credit cards and our banking, to our healthcare, to our agriculture, to our police and our surveillance, and almost any industry you can think of now utilizes AI. This is not just Chat GPT is writing college students' papers and doing high school student and middle school students' work. AI is everywhere. It is the new industry, even when people don't realize it. And we all use it, and hardly anyone in this call, I'm sure, asked for it. So, yeah, this is the current state we're in, and I will pass this to Kelvin.
Thanks. All right, so let's talk about the complications and harms. Obviously, AI and other forms of data centers do some good, but here's some of the effects they have on the communities. They definitely lower property values. No one wants to live in a neighborhood where the deer and the rabbits and the birds don't come around anymore. Those 70 to 95 decibels is real. People are like, well, I vacuum all the time. Well, you can't turn that vacuum off when you live next to the data center or a crypto mine. And it industrializes rural land. I don't live in the country, so I can see a bunch of metal boxes humming next door. I want to see trees and fields and such. Um, but they do pose a lot of health concerns, and a lot of them are noise related. Chronic 24/7 noise of that scale is linked to sleep disruption, stress and anxiety, which raises your blood pressure, gives you an increased risk of heart disease, and it's been proven over and over again that kids who grow up near long-running noise sources have documented learning and concentration issues. And remember, this crypto mine in Dafter is literally right across the street from school. They affect air quality. Audrey mentioned the CO2 pollutants, um, and also nitrogen oxides. So there's increased risk of asthma and such there. And they do a lot of light pollution, actually. Entire countrysides in Texas right now, which is the Bitcoin capital of the world, probably. Uh, it's as if the sun never sets. Slide 18, please. All right, so let's talk about the energy uses that they have. Water use right now. Data centers, especially the AI ones, consumes millions of gallons of water a day for cooling. Um, Crypto typically uses less water, but still requires some sort of industrial cooling, depending on the tech. The one in Dafter right now doesn't use water cooling. They use these big fans, which produces a lot of that noise. So that stresses municipal water systems, and it cools the machines by heating the water, right? The water extracts the heats from the machines, and then they just dump that water on the ground into our rivers, into our lakes. Um, and that kills fish, promotes algae bloom. Again, it depletes the aquifers, and it's just a real strain on our water system. Our trout streams up here depend on cold, clean water, and these disrupt them big time. Um, and they put a tremendous strain on our energy situation, on our grids. They're huge energy users. A single mid-sized data center can use the energy of a city between 50 and 100,000 people. Sault Saint Marie, which is just 9 miles away from the Dafter crypto mine there. Sault Saint Marie is a population of 13,000 people. So that tells you like the massive scale that these guys use energy on. And the consequences are higher rates, higher energy rates for local people. And it delays the transition to renewable energy because suddenly these utilities have to find a way to create energy pronto for these guys, and that usually results in burning fossil fuels. And of course, there's risks of burnouts in places. They say, oh, these things are going to help save money. Theoretically, they can. It just never works out that way. And we need to talk about the tension between the public cost and the private profit. Um, Townships are on the hook to pay for road upgrades, water hookups, sewer, fire protection, emergency services, so on and so forth. The data centers do pay taxes, but they often, like Audrey said, demand tax breaks. And they say they create jobs, but honestly, AI is actually removing jobs from the market. I mean, just a real quick anecdote to tell you how this hits. I have a buddy who works at a lumber mill right now, and he's a lumber inspector. Um, he was just told that his job position is being discontinued because it can be replaced by AI scanning lumber. So shows up everywhere, more places than you might think. Slide 19, please. So Audrey mentioned the surveillance that AI is used for, and this is really scary to me living on a border town. Um, Data centers can process and store body cam footage, um, license plate data. They're used to do predictive policing analytics, monitoring our social media, and a lot of this data is held by corporate interests. It's not, even if we, maybe could trust the government, they're not the ones holding a lot of this stuff, right? So that means there's no public control over this data and how it's used. And there's risk of data breaches. It happens all the time. And it enables a logarithmic discrimination due to the facial regulation or recognition and the inaccuracies inherent in that system. So rural communities end up being a host to that infrastructure that fuels these systems without oversight. And I said, I live in a border town in Sault Ste. Marie. It's particularly worrying for me. We're about to start this big drone surveillance program here under the auspices of border security. But what are they processing? What are they looking for? What are they mean? Um, like are they going to build a profile on me? Do they know when I come and go out of my house, who I'm hanging out with? This is all possible under AI. These machines are running hard and fast and analyzing a ton of data in real time at a scale that we can't even imagine. So you might be thinking, with all these risks and seemingly our communities gain so little, surely they can't be very popular. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and Audrey's going to share a bit about the landscape of the big tech right now.
Absolutely. So I'm just gonna paint a picture for you all about the global landscape. Why here? Why now? Why us? These are the questions that I'm asking. And big tech is moving across our nation rapidly. Um, a couple things that are going on is crypto mining. Crypto mining is the number one technology in the country right now by a wide margin. And it's not surprising because crypto miners, were kicked out of China, Kazakhstan, Iceland, and different parts of the EU due to strain, due to water use, due to noise, and due to climate goals. So a lot of these different countries, do have global climate agreements, ones that the US has not signed on to yet. So, um, many relocated to rural American towns with cheap energy and very little regulation. And these right now include places like Texas, Kentucky, North Dakota, Virginia, and now, of course, we are seeing Michigan and specifically crypto mining in northern Michigan. Most traditional data centers, like I had talked about earlier, the big, massive corporation ones are concentrated in US, in Europe, and East Asia. And the US is the world's dominant player across all of this. Northern, so yeah, we are currently the largest host of them. And because we're such a dominant player, Northern Virginia alone uses more electricity than many small countries, um, which it blows my mind. And many regions like Netherlands, Ireland, Singapore are capping or pausing new data centers because of energy strain and water strain. Then finally, AI data centers. This is the world's arms race. The United States and China are two huge superpowers right now, and countries with strong climate goals are saying no. So countries like Ireland, Netherlands, Norway are rejecting slowly or rejecting all AI mega centers. So there is a federal and industry push that we had mentioned. There is some money in politics, and let's be real, it is about the money. There is a huge tech bro influence coming in from Silicon Valley, entrepreneurs and venture capitalists that have deep access to policymakers. Um, the tech sector has wielded great influence both in the White House, and in Congress and the state legislature. Just a couple examples. During Trump's inauguration, he invited tech billionaires and now trillionaires, um, like Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, Elon Musk of Tesla, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, um, and others, and they were given extremely prominent positions in our administration, which oftentimes are usually reserved for the president's family and other honored guests. So it's not surprising that tech elites are often pushing deregulation, um, and they are lobbying for tax breaks. So basically, there is massive money in crypto and in AI, and tech oligarchs spend it lavishly on lobbying and bribery. And the folks who we pay to regulate these industries through our tax dollars, are cashing it in on themselves. So this leads to a very favorable political and regulatory environment, and it has very much fragmented energy regulation with states and private utilities. So to summarize, tech oligarchs spend lavishly on lobbying, and policymakers cash in That is why I put the Mop Up Michigan or Michiganders for Money Out of Politics here, because we see so clearly how money in politics and tech oligarchs and tech corporations giving money to politicians really controls the legislation, both on a statewide level and nationally. And utilities are loving this, but we, as everyday people, are paying the price. So some reasons why utilities love crypto and data centers because they are constant, high volume electricity buyers. It's perfect for their revenue projections. It's high profits with low risk for the utility. And here is the kicker. Infrastructure costs have been seen being passed to everyday ratepayers in regions that have high amounts of these data centers and crypto mining centers. So that is clearly dangerous for us because they are building out enormous grid infrastructure for private companies. And if this bubble pops, the very bubble that Kelvin will be speaking about very soon here, communities will be stuck with expensive, stranded assets. So basically, the US isn't leading in crypto and AI data centers by accident. It is the result of a perfect storm of a friendly political environment for them, of intense lobbying from tech elites, of utilities chasing revenue, and local governments that have limited capacity and limited, you know, regulations.
So
So
yeah,
I'm
let's
gonna
talk about
pass this to Kelvin to talk about the bubble.
seamless transition, Audrey.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, so let's talk about this bubble. We're going to start with crypto. Crypto is very much a boom bust industry. It's highly volatile. Um, the value of these coins can spike or crash within months. That one Bitcoin that Audrey talked about earlier that took like 20,000 liters of water to create. Right now, it's worth about $85,000. 2 months ago, it was worth $125,000. What real currency fluctuates so much? And why do we have to keep comparing it to the American dollar? Um, ac Across the US, dozens of rural towns are seeing mines shut down overnight when the price drops like that. And that leads to unpaid utility bills, abandoned buildings and equipment, and an overbuilt energy structure that ratepayers are ultimately on the hook for. And the AI bubble might come to burst here too. Um, Experts and investors are warning that AI is just not living up to its hype. There's a lot of exaggerated capabilities in AI. For one, artificial intelligence isn't really intelligent. It can't think like humans can think, and it very often makes factual errors and hallucinates data. And basically, a hallucination in AI is it gives you false information with confidence. Some of you may have heard that story of that lawyer who used ChatGPT to build a case citing case law that never existed because ChatGPT hallucinated cases to back up his claims. And there's obviously, we talked about the overstated job creation. It promised to boost jobs, and instead it's just taking jobs away left and right. So now let's talk about NVIDIA, because we can't have this conversation without talking about NVIDIA. Who here is familiar with NVIDIA? I wasn't until recently, but man, do I wish I'd bought stocks in NVIDIA a long time ago. It is the world's most valuable chip company, and that value is driven almost entirely now by AI demand. The company is worth 1.1 to 1.2 trillion dollars as of December 2025. Its market cap exceeds GDP of countries like Canada, Spain, or Australia, and it dominates the AI hardware industry. With companies that big, what are we doing here? Like, it's huge. And we all are familiar with the term now, too big to fail. Will we be having to bail out NVIDIA when their bubble crashes, like we did with the big banks back in 2008 and 2009? What else might we have to bail out in this industry if the bubble bursts? All of our eggs are being put in this AI and tech basket, and that's a real danger to us. So that's the landscape as I see it. We've got powerful tech elites and their lobbyists pushing an industry onto our lawmakers and communities. They're consuming massive amounts of our resources and risking our future, all for the benefit of the wealthy. And that's if everything goes right. If it collapses, the rich will still be obscenely wealthy, but ordinary folks like us will have be left to deal with the consequences and the fallout within our own communities. There's some good news here, though, folks. People are fighting back. Y'all might have heard about the recent win in Kalkaska County, where a data center there was halted after the community rose up and said, "We don't want this." There's a fight in Saline Township right now. The township board did what the people wanted and rejected the zoning, but the company is now taking that municipality to court. And I should mention, tech is a bi this big tech influence is bipartisan. The vice president of that big tech company looking to put that data center in there is actually the husband of our own Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson. So nobody's immune to this influence. And then there's the Augusta Township referendum, where they're actually putting together a ballot initiative to try to overturn the decision to allow a data center in there. And of course, now we have the situation in Dafter Township.
To summarize, community organizing works. We do not want to be all doom and gloom here because when the people come together, there is opportunities for us to pave a pathway forward. So we need a positive vision for the Upper Peninsula and Northern Michigan, and we need to stop letting these industries set the terms. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what these pushback fights reveal and some useful lessons and talking points moving forward. As far as Kalkaska and Saline shows, when residents, conservationists, fishermen, and local businesses come together, small town folks can unite and they can beat deep-pocketed developers that are coming in from the outside. And just a reminder, our resources plus our values is our leverage. Rural Michigan still has clean water. We have beautiful forests. We have wonderful lakes that we spend our time at. We have a tradition of land stewardship that gives us the real power, but only if we can come together and use it together. And we need, there is a need for alternative economic visions. Resistance isn't just saying, not in my backyard. It isn't just rejecting all development, but it is rejecting extractive, high risk, high impact projects that in favor for smaller, more sustainable, community-centered economic growth. We need a positive vision for the Upper Peninsula and Northern Michigan. And we need to, again, stop letting these industries set the terms.
hmm So that's why Audrey and I came together, Up North Advocacy, Michigan United, and our friends and other partners, and we formed the Northern Michigan Alliance for Responsible Development. We're organizing across the Upper Peninsula and Northern Michigan in response to these crypto mining and data center proposals. We emphasize responsible land, water, and power use. We demand community consent, and we demand the protection of our natural resources, and we want to build a long-term, stable economy, not, again, reliant on outside-led extractive investment. We're building on the examples of Kalkaska, Saline, and Augusta townships as proof that pushback can succeed. These data centers are not stoppable and they're not inevitable. So our plan to do that, we're going to host and attend educational events just like these that we're having right now. We're going to talk to our neighbors and unite them and organize them around this issue. And we're going to push and educate local townships and counties to hopefully pass moratoriums. There's a lot to figure out in this broad landscape. Again, some of these uses are positive for our communities. We just need to be able to use them appropriately. Some communities, maybe it might make sense for some, but most I don't think they do. We need to set those terms and we need the time to do that. We're going to demand that these municipalities hold public information sessions so people can learn and give their ideas and have a say in how their community proceeds. And we're going to build ordinances based on facts and public input, not based on the sales pitches of moneyed interests. And where these things end up going in, we're going to demand some very strong community benefits agreements. And some communities have done that. They've forced these companies to produce their own power, build houses for local communities, invest in local schools. That can happen. And most of all, we're going to demand protection of our water, land, and our grid's security so we can use our resources wisely.
Which brings me to our first large public launch across the first congressional district. We are hosting in-person events as well as a webinar portion. So it would be ran sort of like this on Sunday, January 18th. The time is likely going to be 7 to 8:45, but just mark that Sunday in your calendars. The local event is going to be at the Orpheum Theater, and the people that should attend are all of you, as well as engaged neighbors, planning commissions, township boards, and anyone who cares about the community. We are going to be covering at this first January 18th event of an overview of the threat, tools communities have to fight back, legal and policy and organizing strategies as well. So if you would like to join us on January 18th for our hybrid webinar series, um, please stay in touch, I would say, with Joan. I will share all of this information with Joan. And make sure that this is shared with you all, and we hope to see you in the new year.
Yeah, and like Audrey said at the beginning of this, this wasn't a talk about like big tech. It wasn't even necessarily a call to action. It's an opportunity to understand what's really happening in our communities, to understand the influence of moneyed interests and how they intersect with the interests of people who actually live here. We've proven that communities, when they come together and express a positive vision, they can win big things. Our strength has always been our people and our values and our willingness to show up for one another up here. We're a very kind of do it yourself with our neighbors kind of place in the UP, and that's why I love it so much. And I'd like to call on that spirit of coming together and the protecting of our resources so we can push back on these things and make sure that we're building a future for our kids that we're comfortable with. So thank you all for showing up. I think we've got time for some questions if I'm not wrong.
Yes, we do.
Great.
Yep. So